Hey everybody! Oh, they've got us hopelessly outnumbered. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. In terms of sheer numbers and they're everywhere around us. The bacteria, the single-celled organisms of the Earth are far more numerous than us, and a compelling argument for survival. But as multicellular organisms, we have our niche as well. And it's an interesting thing. I just read a fascinating article about how the development of multicellular organisms may be more stimulated by environmental influence than anything else. Of course, we probably all knew that was the case anyway, but there's been some evidence, some actual, real, evidence from the lab showing that to be the case. And it was a fascinating little study showing how yeast, single-celled yeast, can within 60 days go from being little single-celled happy little organisms there to rock. Somebody banged into this wall here. Why is it always somebody banging into this wall here? I find it all the time. Gotta kick these to the side. It's gonna trick somebody. Anyway, these so what the scientists did was this. Okay, they had yeast cells, nice little yeast cells, the same type that you make bread with and beer and the like. And they put, well, I don't know if it's the same one, but they're the same type of group of animals, little singular cell animals or creatures. You wouldn't want to call it. And I don't know, is a yeast an animal or a plant? I think it's something in between. Anyway, I'm gonna get off the point. Stay back on track, Kurt. Okay, so they're in their jar, right? And they're in their solution there. And the way they wanted to stimulate them to basically create multicellular organisms. And how did they do that? Well, they applied environmental pressures. Once a day, the researchers took the jars and they scooped out the yeast that had fallen to the bottom, the heavier yeast that had fallen to the bottom of the jar, scooped them out, put them into a new jar, and then threw the rest away. And then the next day they did the same thing. At the end of the day, and they shook it up. Yeah, and then they put this yeast that fell to the bottom in the new jar, and then a jar full of solution, and then they shook it up so it all mixed up. And then at the end of another 24 hours, they took the heavy ones from that jar, the ones that fell to the bottom, moved them, put them into a new jar, and threw the rest away. So you see what's happening here. There's an artificially applied pressure on the little community there that to basically become heavy and dense and fall to the bottom. Because those that do will survive to see another day, and those that do not, well, they go down the sink. So this is exactly the type of pressure that occurs in nature through various and all kinds of different forms that has led to what we are now. So what they found was happening, and they thought it would take a long time to see any changes. Within 60 days, true multicellular organisms began to appear. Multicellular in this case being defined as single cells clumping together, staying together, and actually developing separate functions, specialization. Different cells were beginning to focus on doing particular types of tasks. These cells actually began to reproduce and create new multicellular children, so to speak. Which would not mature and reproduce which would not reproduce themselves until they had reached maturity. This happened within 60 days. They went from single-celled yeast floating around in a vat to multicellular organisms that were able to have specialized cellular functions and a reproductive capability and a life cycle going from a juvenile to a mature organism. This is to me, this is absolutely astonishing. I mean, if I was in charge, thank gosh I'm not in charge of the Nobel Prize, because I'd be awarding it to these guys, because they basically demonstrated one of the fundamental tenets in my mind of how life has proceeded, evolved. Now, may I use that word? Of course I'll use that word. How life has evolved on Earth. From more simple to more complex. And the principle that they found that was most important, the pressure, the thing that they were looking at most, that seemed to be the key thing here, was the pressure of the environment. Not necessarily focusing on the genetic signature differences, but on the pressure of the environment, which is exactly right. I mean, it seems like such common sense now in hindsight to be looking at because that's what all early life cared about, was the pressure of the environment. How is life going to best adapt to survive and carry on? And it seems that multicellular, it seems that life is eagerly capable of I don't know if eager is the right word, but eminently capable of evolving from simple-celled organisms to multicellular organisms, given the right opportunity. 60 days. That is faster than fast in terms of evolutionary, geological, or even almost any time scale you can imagine related to the natural sciences. Take care, everybody. I'll put a link to the article in question down below in the info section, and I hope you all have a wonderful multicellular day. Hey, remember, the bacteria might have us outnumbered and outgunned, yep, but they can't run as fast as us. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Wow.